Actually, now, the idea of long geologic ages on Earth predates evolution by many, many centuries, going back to some of the ancient Greeks.
Claire, I've come to expect continual errors from you. Your mistake here is a lack of understanding about what the ancient Greeks actually said in their language. The ancient Greeks did not believe the earth was millions or billions of years old. They wrote of the golden age and various ages for man. Now, in the Greek mind, in ancient times, an age meant a long period, but not almost an ending period. Typically, it's referred to a period of roughly 1,000 years. And this is a big error that has come forth that has caused a lot of Christians to believe that the place of torment for sinners is eternal. You see, because of the misuse of the word aeon, which in Greek means long duration. In regards to anything that is of the earth or man, it means long duration. It does not mean eternal or unending or unbroken age. See, that's why a lot of Christians falsely believe that the place of torment is eternal, because the meaning of the word aeon has been improperly translated in modern times. The ancient Greeks never wrote with the word aeon as meaning a vast, unimaginable long period of time. It meant an age or an era. It does not mean billions or millions of years. It means roughly 1,000 years. Just like the 6,000 years the Scripture describes the Bible as, the ancient Greeks also believed mankind has existed for only thousands of years. So, you're not educated on that subject, Claire. You see, many theologians and many historians have written of this mistake. It's a translation error in the King James Bible, as a matter of fact. The word aeon has been improperly replaced with forever or forever and ever. Aeon and aeonos, or aeon, which means a long duration. And in ancient Greek writing, the word aeon, in reference to God, or anything of God, such as God in the kingdom of heaven, or God's character, it always means eternity. But when in reference to anything that is not directly of God, such as the earth, or man, or the lifespan of man, or the history of man, the word means an age, or an era, or long duration. Does not mean millions or billions of years. The ancient Greeks never wrote, nor did they believe, that this earth was millions or even billions of years old. There you go.
And modern uniformitarianism has its roots in the late 18th century, a couple of generations before Charles Darwin wrote Origin of Species.
Modern uniformitarianism? Claire, uniformitarianism didn't exist until the 18th century. The ancient Greeks didn't write that the earth is millions or billions of years old. You see, that's a misunderstanding of the Greek use of the word aeon and aeonos. See, isn't it funny how in the same modern era when uniformitarianism began to be preached, somebody changed the meaning of the word aeon and aeonos in modern translations of ancient Greek writing? What a coincidence. Hey, you don't suppose there's a conspiracy going on, do you? You don't think that these people who preach uniformitarianism tried to change the meaning of the word aeon and aeonos in ancient Greek writing, do you? What do you think? Charles Lyell was wrong, and Charles Darwin got some of his ideas from Charles Lyell. Here's something I'm sure you don't know, because, you know, evolutionists really don't research things much. Charles Darwin believed in evolution before he was even 20 years old. Long before he went to the Galapagos, long before he wrote about anything regarding anything. You see, he was already indoctrinated, like you've been indoctrinated by your secular education and your desire to be free of God's authority. See, Charles Darwin already believed in evolution long before he even the idea of writing anything about it ever happened to him. See, he didn't go to the Galapagos Islands until he was a mature man, and what he observed there was not evolutionary change, merely physical adaptation. A little bigger beak is not evolutionary change. It's not morphological change. It's not evolutionary change. And researchers have proven that those birds, the finches, have reverted to their previous beaks. They've reverted back to their smaller size. See, that's not evolutionary change. It's not change to morphology. So anyway, Charles Lyell was wrong, and Charlie Darwin got some of his ideas from Charles Lyell, and Charles Darwin believed in evolution before he was 20 years old. See, he was indoctrinated by his grandfather's writings, Erasmus Darwin, who wrote of evolution. Charles Darwin read his grandfather's writings and believed in evolution. Lock, stock, and barrel, because his grandpa said it was true. There's something else you might find interesting. Uniformitarianism and evolutionism were ideas put forth in a time when science was in its infancy. See, we've learned a lot since then.
You find all science absurd if it suggests that the world wasn't created magically a few thousand years ago by an invisible wizard.
Jesus Christ was invisible? That's a pretty bizarre idea. You know, almost every historian in the world accepts that Jesus Christ was a real man. They just refuse to accept that he was God. See, because he is. Claire, Jesus Christ, I'll let you in on a secret. Jesus Christ is God, manifest in the flesh of man. The Bible told us he would come as man. Jesus said he was God, and Jesus proved it with many miracles. And he proves it today, because 2.1 billion people on this planet experience God, while you and the little bitty cult of God denialists called atheists, which account for 2 to 3% of the population of the world, live in this little delusional box in their head that God is an invisible wizard. He's not even real. Hey, that sounds good. That makes me feel safe. Yeah. All right. Because I can't see God, I can. Oh, he must not be real. That's a relief.
Have you ever seen a large sheet of steel bend or sag, Neff? See, the thing is objects that appear to be quite rigid when you're looking at a small sample can actually be quite bendable if you're looking at them as a large sheet. For example, let's take something off the desk here. Well, this is an engineering scale. This one's plastic. I'm sure you're unfamiliar with these objects. As you see, it's not very bendable. But if I had a sheet of this plastic this thick, and it was big as this room, it would be very bendable. And sedimentary rock layers are kind of like that too. Individual rock layers may be only a few feet thick, but they may extend for miles laterally.
Claire, you non-thinking uniformitarianist, you. First off, you're pointing to steel as an example of how rock can bend? How scientific of you, Claire. Claire, steel and rock do not have the same properties. Steel does not have tensile strength only, like rock. Rock cannot be bent unless high temperatures are applied to it. And even then, not all kinds of rock will bend unless they become molten. You see, Claire, rock doesn't bend. It's brittle. It breaks. Now look at these photographs, Claire. We're not talking about rocks, strata, that are miles long. We're talking about some that are inches wide or feet wide. Do you see the human beings in some of these photographs, Claire? We're not talking about your cockamamie model in your head where strata miles long have been bent. We're talking about strata, areas of strata no more than feet or inches wide, which have been bent and curled every which way from Sunday. Rock cannot bend that way, Claire. Fail. The only way the strata could have been bent is because they were still plastic, still soft and moist when they were bent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment, I provide Claire. She's about to explain to us how she believes the strata of the earth in the mountains can be topsy-turvy folded, and how rock strata can bend, because she's going to explain to you that it happened deep in the earth where things are hot, and then these mountains were uplifted afterward. This is going to be her explanation, but what you're going to witness is the complete collapse of rationale and reason in the mind of a uniformitarianist. You're going to see it for yourself with your own eyes. It's going to be very entertaining. Watch this.
And they can be quite bendable, especially when buried to great depth.
I call this the Claire theory. She's going to explain to you. Now, here's point number one. She says that, according to her theory, it happens that sedimentary strata, are bent and folded and curled every topsy-turvy, every which way, because it happened while they were deep in the earth. Okay, that's point number one. Don't forget that.
As we go deeper within the earth, things get hotter. 25 degrees centigrade per kilometer in non-tectonically active zones, and in zones where plates are crushing together and forming mountains, it's much hotter at depth. And the rocks become very plastic.
Okay, so she says it happens deep in the earth, the point one. And point two is that the rock is plastic. The sedimentary strata down there are plastic because they're at a great depth. So they're very hot, and that's how they could bend. Okay, stay with us now.
Incidentally, calling mountains like the Alps, the Appalachians, the Rockies, folded mountains is only partially true because the rocks do have a limit in terms of their flexibility, and they do break to form something called thrust faults.
Okay, so now point three of the Claire theory is that rocks have limits and they break because of pressure. And this creates faults.
Now, if I've already explained how rocks bend in mountain building episodes, so your comments about water are entirely irrelevant.
Okay, so here's the point four of her theory is that water is irrelevant to these sedimentary strata, which were bent deep in the earth where it's boiling hot.
But given that comment, I have to ask, have you ever heard of rain and snow? When it rains and snows in mountains, do you think it just all runs off? No, a lot of it seeps into the ground and gets into the rock layers via cracks and crevices and joints between the rocks. It's constantly replenished.
Okay, so point five of her theory is that gravity actually does pull water out of strata and out of mountains, just as it would if, as I said, don't tell anybody, that as when the mountains rose, the gravity pulled the water out of the sedimentary strata and they bent and curled while they were still wet and plastic. Okay, so let's piece together Claire's theory. Now, it happened deep in the earth where the strata were still hot, and so they were soft, and they were squeezed together, and that's why they bent and curled and twisty-turvy, and then the mountain was pushed up out of the earth. And a temperature which was extremely hot, so hot that rock was plastic, nearly molten. Claire, the strata are sedimentary. Do you understand what that means? They were formed by and in water. You have to believe that these strata were formed in water at a place where the temperature is so hot that rock becomes plastic. Where is this massive pool of boiling water? And how do sedimentary strata form when water is exploding? Claire, you're a bumble. And now, my friends, you've just witnessed the rationale of a uniformitarianist evolutionist totally collapse on itself. Good job, Claire, for non-thinking. You're the proud recipient of the third issuing of NephilimFree's Diminutive Evo Head Award for non-thinking and science denialism. Congratulations. One more point, Claire. The entire surface of the earth is covered with bent strata. Virtually every hill on the earth has bent strata, which were not formed deep in the earth where the ground is hot and the stone is plastic. They were formed by water. According to the Claire theory, the entire surface of the earth was so hot that it was molten while evolution was going on.